All right, welcome once again. It's so rapid done. Hope you had a great time on Eastern Circle right there with Adeze and Michael. We were back at about 9. I did promise you that we have so many things that we'll be talking about today, but not to forget that everything relates down to the economy. Now, new numbers are coming up and our inflation rate is rising. Not to also forget that news broke out of the crash of CBEX, a Ponzi scheme, even though a lot of people have denied knowing that it was a Ponzi scheme. And this brings the number to over 50 Ponzi schemes that Nigerians have fallen trap of between 2016 and now. Let's not even talk about the one before 2016. And it's almost like, what are the authorities doing about it? What is going on? Is this because of the situation of the economy in the country, and so people just want to find how to get rich? This will form the basis of our conversation this morning, where we're talking about Nigeria's recurring Ponzi tragedy, and of course diving into the inflation once we are, just linking it up with the inflation and everything that has to do with the economy. And I do have my guest, a renowned chief economist, joining us on the show this beautiful morning. It is a pleasure to have Dr. Paul Alaja. It's so great to have you on the show this beautiful
Thank you
morning.
so much for having me. A beautiful morning to you.
All right. I'm sure you heard the news about the CBEX crash.
Yes.
Let's start from there.
Yes.
What was the first thing that came to your mind?
Well, I think always people don't listen, and people want get quick, get rich quick approach to life. There is nothing that does not take time. I remember in 2016, I was in some major television and radio stations in Abuja to warn people about MMM and that MMM would crash. One of the radio stations at that time was in Maitama, invited MMM, they called them advisors or guardian, or they have one very nice name for them. And myself and another man who the host had invited us to speak on the other side, that was the day I knew what killed my father. They abused hell out of me. They called me prophet of doom.
Wow.
They told me out. They gave me all manner of unprintable names, not behind camera. I mean on screen, on radio. People called. People that had their money in MMM. They said they wish I were a member, that I have so much convincing power that they want me to join. And I'm like, the end thereof of what you are doing will be destruction because you lose your money. This was in September. December, MMM crashed. The young lady that had the program invited me again and said, as always, you make prediction, it always comes to pass. He said, now you've made another prediction and the almighty MMM is down. And only two of you seems to be saying something different from every other person. Now, I was invited to another TV station thereafter to speak about MMM. And I said, this will not be the last. In fact, people forget. Can I shock you? This CBEX that just crashed will also not be the last. I'm happy that the head of SEC just got a bill passed in the National Assembly. And I'm happy the president perhaps have ascended to his signature to that. So that we can head Ponzi scheme in Nigeria. It's a menace that is horrible. I've had my own fair share of the story many years back, before MMM. You have heard about Umana. You have heard about Pennywise. You have heard about Word Solution. These were programs that were designed in pyramid nature. So let me tell people, why did you even call it pyramid? Why pyramid? Why not another name? You see, any scheme they tell you that they are enriching you weekly, you have to be careful. They cannot be richer than IMF and World Bank.
Exactly.
So when they tell you that week 1, week 2, week 3, and your money is doubling, is your pain that may double at the end.
Is your money really doubling? Because you only see, but you're not exactly, you don't have access to the money.
Maybe these new ones don't have access. In those days, I mean 15, 20 years ago, you would actually withdraw. But you know what? If your name is Peter, remember my name is Paul. They always draw Peter to pay Paul. So the people that are ahead, they always make money. Meanwhile, people that are beneath, they always cry. So, and how do they do that? They tell you 3 people have collected 1 million. Bring 10,000 naira. You see, and for real, the smart ones will actually give 1 million to those people, not knowing that they've gathered 1,000 people and they are only giving them CPN of money they've gathered. Now, the real reason why they crash, which I explain to people in MMM, which I explain on Wealth Solution, is another explanation I will give. So that people watching us now in the future, we know why it's not sustainable. It's not that the owners don't want it to be sustainable. Sometimes the owner feels that, oh, this is a way wealth of the world can go round. No, they are making a mistake. There are indicators. When it gets to week 36, or season 36, or month 36, you will need the entire world to subscribe. Because week 1, 2, week 3, for the leanest, the best one among them, they call it matrix of 2. Week 1, 2, week 2, 4, week 3, 8, you keep doubling the number. By the time you get to week 36, you need the entire population of the world. So are you saying that I'm not in this world because I will not subscribe? So you start having issues. By week 15, you perhaps need the entire population of Nigeria. So already you are bound to fail. So if they run it so fast on weekly basis, which means it cannot see the end of 4 months. In some cases, if they make 2 weeks to be their week, then you cannot see the end of 8 months. If they make one month, it cannot surpass a year. Tell me which one have gone beyond 3 years. None. So it's so clear that people hear about this and they quickly want to put their money, take it out, and be very fine. That's the reason why people keep falling victim of what they think will enrich them overnight, but in the real sense, it's just adding to their pains.
Okay, let's now talk about the fact that some persons are blaming on the fact that a lot of Nigerians are not financially educated. You are taking out time, you've been sounding these warnings, oh, this thing doesn't help you. But every single time, even if one comes, in 2025 alone, I think this is the second one that has crashed. And people will tell you, oh, but I cashed out at the beginning. But what's happening now is your greed. How do we tie this to our economy? Because some people say, okay, these are some of the challenges, the burdens of being a third world country. Because when things are not going well, you just want any way and whatever way that you can make money from the little you have. We want to call it greed. There's a part of us that want to call it greed. But away from greed, how do we tie this to our present economic situation?
To be sincere with you, it's very common in most third world countries, not just in Nigeria. And the real reason why it's so common is because of poverty and low education. But there are things that I think the fourth arm of government, the media now, could be done, is to ensure for Nigeria, there is now a new law that prescribes pyramid scheme. If you think that your program is supporting people to build wealth, go and get it registered with Security and Exchange Commission.
Okay.
So that people know that we are now doing what has government license, which is fine.
But it's been that this was registered.
With Security and Exchange Commission?
Yes, that's what's been reported, that this was registered.
Oh, well. If it's with Security and Exchange Commission, it's the best news for people. You know why? One, everybody must get their money back. That's the law. People should not be afraid. They will hold SEC responsible. Yeah. If it's registered with SEC, which I doubt, because you might be registered for a mutual fund and you are running another program.
Okay.
Even under SEC. I doubt. So here is it. If it is registered, then people have no issue because the promoter, the major promoter will go to jail. It's in the new law. He will go to jail. 2, the person will have to pay a fine, millions of naira. And the truth is that that program will certainly refund everybody based on the new law. That is if it's registered. Even if it's not registered, jail is sacrosanct, according to the new law. I don't know if there's any other law, but to run a program like this is important for people not to just hear that they are registered. Okay. People can take the registration number, go Verify. To SEC website, put it there, and check. So this person has SEC number, truly. Is it what the license says it should do, or she should do, or they should do? If not, then raise alarm. And that's how SEC can know. SEC cannot be everywhere.
True.
You understand? And luckily now, SEC has a very proactive head, you know, who has made sure that Nigerians are protected from fraud. So once it is pyramid scheme, forget it. The end thereof is destruction. I can tell you from my years of experience. I've been monitoring pyramid since 2006 till date. It's nearly 20 years. And I can tell you that the end thereof, I've also read history of the like of Umana and what it did to people. So if you check those number of years, 2005, by the way, yeah, it's 20 years now, till date. If you get the number of pyramids that have crashed in 20 years, I can tell you they are more than 200. It's an average of about 10 per year that is crashing. And this 10 per year, none of them has disappeared with less than 100, 200 million. To be charitable, 200 million. If you say 200 million, to be charitable, 200 million on the average times 200 units. You see how much wealth has disappeared into thin air. Technology even made it worse because people can be running pyramid and you will not know because they are using technology. Unlike those days where they have to queue in one office, they have to collect physical card. All of those processes have been digitalized. So it becomes really very difficult for you to convince people not to do pyramid scheme. So the best thing is SEC needs to go more on television, radio, act it as drama for people to be aware that this is fraud and they will keep losing their money.
In fact, just to give you a number of how much persons actually lost in this particular one, CBEX, is it said that about 81,430 US dollars to the scam, which some people say in Naira is about 1.1 trillion Naira. This is a huge amount, and we do hope that some percentage could be recovered. Now, there are stories going around saying that they are reaching out to some persons saying, okay, if you want to get some percentage of your money, put this, pay this, and you can get this. This is the scam still going on. So if you want, let's say you have $10,000 with them and you want to get a part of it. Oh, this is a scam, but we can give you some part of your money. Okay, pay 500,000 and we'll give you this. And we hear that some persons are also falling for this. Is this outright illiteracy or what?
Well, I think it's desperation mixed with greed. So people just want their money back, you know. And I kept telling people, well, each time I organize financial training programs for people, most of the time I tell them, I say, money is not what you get overnight, it's over time. And if you have it, please guard it. Why? Because it comes with a wing and is willing to fly away from your hand. So your job must be to protect what you have. If not, everything will disappear. With the promise of doubling it for you, you are going to lose everything overnight. So it's important, very, very important, for people to know and to note that more than the money you have, the education that comes with it is far, far important. So that in the coming period, people will stop losing money to those who are after their wealth and they know that they have nothing to give them in returns.
Okay, let's now move on to the big conversation now, which is inflation. New statistics came out, 24.23% is what we have hit. Now, I would want to say, I mean, if you agree with me, this is the first time we're actually hitting 24.23%. I think sometime in 2023, thereabout, we did hit 24.23%. But this time around, Nigerians were hoping that we would go down. But it seems as though...
Actually, inflation is more than 24.23%. Whatever you see here is very difficult for you to even compare inflation. And I don't blame my friends in the media. I don't blame anybody because they are not economists. First of all, you cannot be comparing apple with banana. You cannot compare, what's it called, oranges with granules. They are even in different food class. You cannot. What we did 2 months ago, we adjusted the methodology from 34%. We changed the methodology and it changed to 24%. 10% disappeared. Prices did not disappear. So when you are comparing, like I've said, it's difficult to say that this inflation number is really 34%. This is how it should have been done. For a year, you must have consistently for 1 year pre-adjusted number. That is pre-adjusted number for methodology. So people should see that number and the newly adjusted number. So that after a year, you now have something to compare with your pre-adjusted, with your adjusted number. But when you just change it from 34 to 24, and people are wondering, because what you are saying now, if I compare it to 6 months ago, is actually better. But in the real sense, it's worse in the market. So what Bureau of Statistics did is that they felt that the component of food inflation on our airline inflation is about 50% dead. So it's too much. Some people are going to restaurants. They are not actually going to the markets to buy food. So they gave those ones, I think, around 10%. Then reduced food inflation by 40% from 50%. So they made some adjustments. This adjustment is what accounted for about 10% reduction in headline inflation. But the price in the market in the real sense did not change. Therefore, if you're accounting for inflation, it will be difficult for me to say that inflation reduced. If I say that, then my certificate should be withdrawn.
Okay.
In the real sense, inflation is actually going up. So for now, because of the complexity we have created, it's difficult. If I were to run this on my econometrics, I will run it as an outlier because it's difficult for me to tell. But if you ask me to speak around it, I will be speaking around pricing for now. And this is what I've told most journalists that should listen. Because what we did was to adjust. Look at unemployment. Unemployment, I think 2023 was, early 2023 was about 33%. We adjusted methodology. It changed to 5%. Are you saying that nobody is unemployed and the number now reduced? So what we did before was that if you are not engaged for 20 hours in a week, which is 4 hours a day on the average for working days, then you are unemployed. We changed that. We said, no, 20 hours is too much. That is only if you are not engaged for 1 hour.
Okay.
That means if you are not engaged up to 1 hour, if you are engaged for 30 minutes, you are unemployed. If you are engaged for 1 hour, that is after this 1 hour show, you are not working again till next week, and you do another 1 hour, you are employed. Would that be very correct in our context as Africa? The answer is not.
No.
Is not correct.
Yeah.
So, but that's what we are using now. That is what brought unemployment down. If you check the real thing, 20 hours or, to my mind, 40 hours, unemployment is far over 30%. So how do I now compare 1 hour a week with 20 hours a week? That will be a sign of insanity. I can't be discussing that. Because ab initio, the comparison was wrong. And it's not what we should be doing. So the number itself should be carefully studied. But what I can discuss, if you look at last month's figure and the new figure that came out, I think it was 24, 23, 24. You can be discussing that. But to compare it with what happened last year, where you have over 30%, is crazy. Now, adjusted inflation, with this adjusted inflation, you have moderate inflation, you have working inflation, you have running inflation, and you have hyperinflation. Once you are above 20%, you have left running inflation. You are high, you are moving towards hyperinflation. Once you get to 40%, you are no, you are
flying
you
inflation.
are, no, that's hyper. That hyper is flying. Is the peak? Is the
peak?
Now, when you get to that point, you are dealing with the peak. But at the time when you are a major inflator, you are between 20 to 30, 20 to 40%. Your economy is a major inflator. That is, you have very high inflation, but it becomes hyperinflation when it gets to 40% and above. So that's the situation we are. But what should be the target of our inflation number? The Central Bank of Nigeria, under Godwin Emefiele, made a broadcast in one of the MPC meetings that the target of Central Bank is between 6 to 9%. So if you are using the adjusted methodology, we are above 24% or 23%. If you are using the old one, we are above 30%. Head or tail, we are far above the target of less than 10%, which would be 6 to 9%. Well, above that, we should be looking at something within that moderate, what generally is called single-digit inflation or moderate inflation for Nigeria. But in the real sense, global average is between 2 to 3%. So whatever how you put it, Nigeria is a high inflation destination, but we can change it. And if time permits me, I can tell you
we'll go into
how
that.
we can change it.
Of course, definitely. For everything we talk about, there have to be a solution. We have to look at not just the problem, but the solution aspects. But that will be done right after this break.
Magic has hit your imagination of TV. A brand new sundial with StarTime's inbuilt technology. New TV innovation with an inbuilt decoder that connects you to both StarTime's antenna and satellite signal. StarTimes Sundial TV, you can enjoy over 300 local and international channels, 1 month StarTimes highest bouquet for free, automatic system update. More benefits, more affordable. StarTimes Sundial TV is available in all StarTimes branches and dealers countrywide. StarTimes Inside, entertainment inbuilt.
All right, welcome back. We're still discussing about the inflation right here in the studio, and I still have my guest, Dr. Paul Alaje. And before we went on that break, we're looking at solutions. But before the solutions begin to roll in, I would like for my guest to, to simplify it in a layman term, because when you tell the woman in the market, she does not understand it in this way. All she just knows that things are getting high. She does not understand the inflation, how it works. She does not understand it in her daily life, how it affects her. She just knows that things are not just moving well in the economy. How do we explain this inflation to the taxi man who is on the road?
Well, I'll try my best possible. Because I don't want to sound like economist. I run away from sounding so professional, especially when I'm on screen or I'm on radio. Inflation is commonly or non-professional, if I want to define it without sounding like a professional, I would say is a general rise in price level, in average price level. I hope I've not lost someone there. So what does it mean? If the price of phone is rising and price of real estate is not rising and other prices are not rising, maybe few, you cannot call that inflation because it's few prices that is increasing. But when general prices, all of them, or most of them, or average number are rising, then you have inflation. So what is happening to price of tomato? What is happening to cost of rent? What is happening to how much I will pay for 1 minute to advertise my program on your show? Because it's a product.
Yes.
Now, when you combine all of these and the prices have increased, you now find the average using what the National Bureau of Statistics call Consumer Price Index, comparing price last month and last year to what is obtainable this month and this year, then you can now say that, oh, the Consumer Price Index has increased or is the same or has reduced. If it has increased, by what level? By what percentage? That is what now gives us, perhaps for food inflation, for core, every other thing apart from food, and for headline inflation. But inflation itself can come from this classification. So you can look at, if it's for food, why is food inflation increasing? Investigation and study by organization reveals that insecurity because of supply is one reason. 2, bad roads. You wonder how it does road? Because those goods needs to be moved
From point A to
from
point B.
farms to markets where people can access them, and it's a big issue. Thirdly, the presence of middlemen who buy at lower price, but because their own economy has been damaged and they know that there is relative scarcity, they will add money to it and give to the consumer at high prices. These are many more are the factors where you see for food. So once you see the problem, you should investigate them and provide solution. What is the first solution? Provide security. The second solution, make your road good. But even if you make your road good and price of diesel, price of PMS are expensive, forget it. We did a data analysis last month on to investigate the Nigeria's inflation and what are the solutions. We picked 5 items.
Namely?
That are the key reasons or causes why we have inflation. Number 1, ground output, which includes food that is growing. 2, cost of power. Because cost of power is very important to industry and everybody. 3, cost of diesel, energy costs, which include PMS and all those things. There are major factors that affect that. Next, cost of rent. Apart from that, cost of interest on business when you borrow money. Do you know that when we ran our analysis, we were shocked? Sorry, cost of rent is part of land. What I should have said is exchange rates. Those are 5 things that we picked. When we ran our analysis, we were shocked. Do you know we can actually bring that inflation to about 15 without adjusting methodology, to about 15% the president wants to achieve?
But these things have to be addressed.
Not all of them, sir.
Okay, which can help?
Two most important factors that if you adjust, you will have inflation go below 15%. Number one is exchange rate.
Okay.
Bring it down to 900 or 1,000. Everything will come down.
So what is stopping that from happening?
Well, we have advised authority on what to do. So I will leave it at that.
Okay.
2, cost of energy. Bring the price of PMS, diesel, to 700 naira, not more than 750. I don't know where you come from. If you drive, I don't know how much you're buying a liter of diesel
between
or petrol.
8 to 1,000.
Now it's about 940. Let that stay for 2 months consistently at 750. Then you see the impact. Those who move from one point to another, at least about 15 to 25% of their cost will drop. And that will affect virtually everything. Virtually everything. So if government truly wants to combat inflation, I'm talking solution now, it's not to be increasing MPR through Monetary Policy Committee. Oh, MPR is now 20-something%. Since we have been doing it in the last, for as long as I remember, 6 years now, has inflation really dropped? And we have Donald Trump threatening with tariff, which you have to be careful. People say tariff will not affect you. Anybody that says that is telling a big joke in his story. Even if Nigerian tariff remain what it used to be, and the rest of the world have high tariff, it will still affect us.
Yes.
Why? We are major import-dependent nation. Because we are import-dependent, especially for finished product, from your beautiful garment that I take is most likely imported, to your nice eyeglasses that is mostly imported, to my suit, even though the tailor sold it in Nigeria, but the fabric is imported. Watch it. What am I going to use to buy? Naira. If it gets weaker, I will have to pay more. I don't know if you get my point.
Yes.
So all of this will affect prices. And if I'm buying my suit more, anywhere I use it to, and I'm to charge, you think I will charge less? I will definitely charge more. That is why those 2 instruments in controlling inflation are the most potent.
So exchange rate and
cost of energy,
which
includes cost of electricity and diesel, petroleum, all of those. You see, if you tame those 2 issues, relax MPR, because MPR is even making people to be unemployed. Why? It's not CBN. CBN don't want people to be employed. That is why you need a potent economist to head some agencies of government that has to do with finance. I'll tell you why. You increase MPR. When you increase MPR, what does that mean? It means that the cost of borrowing from the banks will go higher. Bank will start writing their customer based on the new MPR. This is now the new rate. So now, do you think it will encourage people to invest in the economy? The answer is no. So if they don't invest, what happens to employment? Because investment in the real sector will mean people will employ.
Yes.
So if they don't employ, that means more people will be out of. In fact, some might decide to close their business, and I'm not saying some has actually closed their businesses and they left the country. So when you are making policy, you need to have an holistic view, and that is why macroeconomist is different from just studying to obtain one economist degree. We need specialists in macroeconomics so that you can look at the broad picture and advise that is this decision. You see, in economics, there are trade-offs. You cannot eat your cake and still have it.
Yeah.
So when you take a decision, we will tell you the implication of the decision. It will have both positives and negatives. So you now say that look for the least costs. That's where least cost theory comes from. The one that has least cost and maximum benefits is what you should follow.
Dr. Paul, you've outlined several amazing solutions, But the question that lots of Nigerians will keep asking is, why are these things not being done? We do know that a part of the teams are made up of economists, made of people who specialize in this area, but people like yourself have preferred these very solutions to these people, but we don't see that happening. Let's look at some of the solutions you pointed out and see what are the factors that might likely, limit them from being actualized. For example, you mentioned insecurity, which is part of it, but look at the two, which is exchange rate and, of course, energy.
Yes, cost of energy.
Cost of energy. We had several conversations about this between last year and even this year. Let's now bring our good brother Dangote, for example. A man who doesn't even talk, he had to start talking now because it was looking like the conditions were not favorable for him to please, give the Nigerian people what they want. Now we have a new team on board, Ojulari and his team, which the president thankfully gave it to us. What are we to expect from this new man? Because everything is tied up from your explanation. Everything is tied on this. If we can have these two things, then we can move forward. Nigerians just want to move forward. So what are the things that we should be expecting from the new team? Are they going to be implementing some of these solutions that you've spoken about? Or are they just going to go back and say, okay, let's do it our own way?
Well, Mr. Ojulari, I think it started well by reviving the crude for Naira, or Naira for crude.
Naira for crude.
That, for me, is the first way to start. I remember last month, I warned vehemently on why we must quickly renew, not even to second guess it. You know why? If you want to buy fuel in your vehicle very soon, in less than 6 months, if that has not changed, the attendant will tell you, na dollar we collect. Because you cannot be in a country where it's difficult for you to get FX. Our government is doing everything to conserve the FX. And we have a product in the country, in our country. You now suddenly remember that, oh, crude oil is an international business.
So you have to be doing dollars.
I also do international business. You also do international business. In fact, if crude oil is international business, then purchase of PMS is international business. So you cannot say crude, out of which PMS comes from. PMS is also international because you go everywhere in the world. Broadcasting is international business.
Exactly.
If you live here, so people should pay.
Baby, dollars.
So, for us not to dollarize our economy, because some arguments are very sweet, but very poor. That the sweet does not mean it's right. So when I saw the new release by NNPCL, under the new leadership, that agreement has been extended, I said, this man is starting on a good note. Because if you had insisted that it has to be dollars, then I tell you, you have effectively dollarized not less than 33% of your economy. And there's nothing we can do about it. So it's the right thing to do. However, crude that is stolen in Nigeria, we can recover it. If we do that, government can support the citizen, which is my real argument. Support the citizens for price to come down. Or other refineries, modular refineries, and they're in existence. Apart from that, local refineries should find a way to start producing PMS, because that's where most of your population lies. Diesel is important, PMS is important, Jet 1 is important, Kero is important. But of all of this, PMS and diesel will be my top two.
Okay. As we get set to wrap up, what's your thoughts on collaborating with international partners to address our current problems?
It depends on who. International partners that told us to float our currency, or is it international partner to told us to remove support on energy? I don't know if you are running on power or diesel. If you are running on power, I tell you that after 1 hour show, you can go back and check what your limit, especially if you are bounded to A or you are bounded to B, then you know the cost. So I cannot say those. We cannot exist alone as a nation. We have to be part of some diplomatic ties or the other. But when this advisory comes to us and we follow them hook, line, and sinker, I tell you, at the end of the day, what is important to the rest of the world is that can we buy Nigeria cheaper? If your currency go cheaper, everybody will buy you cheaper, and you will complain and nothing will come out of it.
All right, it has been a great conversation. Unfortunately, your hands are too far. I can't give you our usual high five. Let us try it. Aha! All right.
Fab or long?
Fab. Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Paul Alaje, for coming to, break down these things to the simplest of level for everyone to understand, because this affects every single person. And most times when people hear inflation, they just see, even though we use this word every day, okay, why they inflate prices now? We use these words every time, but when it has to do with the economy, we just, a lot of people just can't find their footing in, knowing how that concerns them. And so this affects every single one of us, and you've brought a lot of light and of course solution. We do hope that the relevant authorities would listen to some of the suggestions that people like yourself have given out, and we hope that in the coming months we are giving this we're giving the Ojulari group to the end of the year. Let's see how things goes, and we do hope that these numbers will not go more than the way it is, or rather things in the market, security would also be addressed, PMS will be addressed. Every single thing that needs to be addressed will definitely be addressed, so that Nigerians can come back, relax, and enjoy themselves, because we are happy people. We just don't want anything that would, and there'll be value for money, because right now there is no value for money. You hold 50,000 naira and you're asking yourself, what did I spend? You come out of the market with just one nylon and you're like, what did I do? I mean, Mr. Paul, I'm sure you've faced that kind of situation before.
Yeah.
You send money to the market and
it disappeared.
Come back with one nylon. You're like, did
even
you steal my money?
Is now sold in Lagos.
All right, that's the much we can take on the show this beautiful morning. Thank you so much for joining us from 7 up until this time, and thank you so much for joining us for this conversation. You can actually rewatch this conversation again, just in case you miss any part of it on our socials. We are on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Official Rapid TV. We are on Facebook. We're on Instagram, and of course we are on X, the same name, Official Rapid TV. My name is Cynthia Agbo. Don't forget to join us on our website every time of the day, www.rbnradiotv.com. I will see you tomorrow morning, bright and early. Until then, stay safe.